Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's doing awesome on this Saturday morning. We just kill this one. We are here, and the question is, are the bears still in control? So let's take a look. Let's see what's going on in the world today. As usual, this is the Saturday morning quickie, and let's see what we got for you guys. So we're going to talk about all things crypto market today, where we are, touch on a little bit of what's going on in the world and how it impacts us as well. Big thank yous all to the moderators out there, keeping us all safe from hate and scammers and everything else. So we're going to touch on a whole bunch of stuff today, mostly Bitcoin, but some other cryptos too, channels about math, money, and freedom. And a disclaimer, of course, you guys know it's edutainment. But first, I want to talk about this little piece first. This is what I call kind of tensions flaring right now. It just appears I'm on the receiving end of a lot of feedback, and I've been talking about this for like a month, but everybody is really getting pissed off. I see it in my comments, I see it in people calling other people bad names, etc. There's hate. People have unrealistic expectations of where markets are going. Everybody wants their 10x overnight. If they don't get it, if their token du jour is failing, they get upset. Also, there's a lot of desperation with people trying to shill stuff really hard. So I promise always to be the first one to criticize anything, even if I hold it or not. I put my money where my mouth is. And, if Ethereum has a problem, I will call it out, even though it's my second biggest bag. So please. Anyway, let's just talk about, forget about tensions flaring, but let's talk about one of the things that I did see happening. And the reason I mentioned that is a ton of hate against PlanB. So this guy, as you know, he nailed, I think it was August, September, October. Yes, he's going to miss November. The question is, what'll happen in December? So again, what do people expect? It is unrealistic to be able to pick an asset and say, yes, it's going to go from this to 95,000 in 30 days. It's just so hard. He did hit a trifecta. His models do work, but as with all models, even with TA, they eventually break. It's normal. Or they get delayed, or something hits them back, or a whole bunch of hedge funds short Bitcoin that manipulate the market, or Mt. Gox happens, Mt. Gox FUD, or there's a new variant, number 529, etc., that throws the markets into a tailspin. So everything kind of happens. We'll see. But remember, the backdrop is absolutely pristine, just like Bitcoin, the asset. Money is coming. Australian pension funds will start layering into Bitcoin starting next week. Singapore has 2 new ETFs for high net worth individuals and institutional investors. And there's so much more all over the world. Whales are accumulating at $60,000. You can buy now at 55. We'll talk about the 55 layer. Nayib BTD is buying. Everybody's buying. So everybody, don't worry if things are a little bit late, and don't be angry, okay? So let's talk a little bit about this. I got a ton of criticism. I came out with this thing, max pain, 55K, solid support, etc., etc. Yeah, I did see it. I had absolute conviction. I had 8 indicators telling me all the same thing. I did the math, ran the numbers, and I said, 55K is where it is. We dipped below 55K, okay? So one thing that I always say is a black swan or a gray swan event can invalidate support levels. Okay, that could be World War III. That could be an Omicron COVID scare like we had on Friday morning very early. And yes, my max pain level was 55K. And we fell 1.8% below it for 24 hours, everybody. This is the market. These are wicks. This is why we love Bitcoin. It is a violent beast, but we are in it for the alpha. Alpha is return. And the recent sell-off has not been bad for the market. And in fact, although bears believe that Bitcoin had already seen its top, this is not true. There was an analyst, I think it was Book's Research, they explained that having this type of macro event, like this new COVID scare and the threat of lockdowns, and for Bitcoin just to fall such a small amount compared to oil, which fell 15%, isn't bad at all. And it's further stating the fact that the digital asset can hold above $50,000 no matter what happens. And this is a very important psychological level of Bitcoin. Remember, a lot of it is in the mind of people, not just technicals, not just financials, not just money flow. It's in the mind of people. So again, Bitcoin is the gift that keeps giving. It's still going strong. Everybody have faith. I'm not slinging hopium here. I'm just telling you what I see, what I feel, what I analyze in an objective manner. Okay, now let's look at this here. This is a monthly chart of Bitcoin. And one thing I do want to point out, though, it is important that we hold above 53K, which is also coincidentally the 50-day moving average. And this will also reinforce upwards move on the monthly. If we dip below 53K, this could invalidate kind of like the bull market and make people kind of spook them a little bit, make them feel bearish. Now, in other news, this is per Glassnode and Will Clemente. This is the adjusted SOPR. And it filters out all the UTXOs, and I've talked about this till I'm blue in the face, but with a lifespan of less than an hour, it eliminates all the kind of day trading transactions. This gives you a clear sign of the actual sale purchase transactions and captures economically the meaningful activity on the chain. Now in June here, the most important thing to listen to about this is we had resistance. You see the red lines there? These were the resistance where the bears were in control. Let me pop out. These guys were in control in June. Okay? Now, we see it has actually flipped. You know the way I always talk about kind of resistance can sometimes flip to support? Well, that's exactly what's happening with the SOPR. All right? And we're seeing that now. We are bouncing really nicely off this 55K level as well, which is supported by this particular chart, which just came out too. So again, relax, everybody. Remember, we could have been buying Bitcoin at $4,000 20 months ago. Now it's $55,000 and everybody's complaining. So anyway, think long term. Don't think, oh, I needed this to 10x by Christmas, whatever. Now, one other thing as well, those of you who have been around for a long time, Bitcoin is dumpiest before it being pumpiest, as a wise man once said. No idea if a wise man said that, but that's just what happens. It looks like the sky is falling before it takes a big move. Again, not singing hope, just looking at the past and history. Now, this is another one, which is kind of interesting. This guy, I love this guy, Nayib BTD. He's brave. He's taking so many chances. He's upsetting people at the IMF that want to control El Salvador. He's got the Bank of England scared. But look at the way he DCA'd on steroids. Now, big thank you to somebody who sent this to me yesterday. I can't remember the name, but I did say I was going to build out a map like this. They did it. This was from CoinDesk. So you can see here, he buys every single dip, and his choices, his sniping has actually been quite good. They now hold, El Salvador now holds about 1,220 Bitcoin, worth about $67 million right now. And remember, El Salvador is not a big company. It has a GDP of about 24 billion. So having over 1,000 Bitcoin is big, nearly $70 million worth. And that could be worth over $100 million, which would then becomes a substantial piece of GDP as they go forward. So let's talk about this one. Somebody pinged me directly on Twitter saying, could you please explain this? And I said, okay, here we go. So this is lighting up the Twitterverse, and everybody's saying, what the hell is this? This is what's called the Bitcoin asset spiral from the rational root. Now, it looks like a tree trunk when it's sawed open, but I'll just point out what you need to know. First of all, you have a number of different things. The rings indicate or signify assets. So for example, Bitcoin is now $1 trillion asset. You can see it. It's the gold swirl that's kind of all over the place. You got your silver, the next ring out, which is just over $1 trillion. It's about 1.3 trillion assets in asset value. Gold is 11 trillion and real estate is 100 trillion. What's interesting for me, and one of the reasons I love this, is look at the patterns. It goes from 1 to 10 to 100 almost between, if you imagine silver being a little over 1 trillion, then you got your 10 trillion gold approximately, it's 11 trillion, and then you got your 100 trillion real estate. All of these have very specific stock to flows. That's not what's important here, but what it is it ties in the actual period to halvening and the halvening cycles and how the rings grow over time. So a few things to pull out here. One, we are according to this, we are 1 ring away from flipping in gold and 2 rings away from making PlanB's handle prophetic, i.e. $100 trillion asset, which is the stock to flow of real estate, which is the highest stock to flow asset on Earth. Basically, as a reminder again, it takes about 100 years to regenerate all of the real estate on Earth. So it has a 1 stock to flow, etc. So Bitcoin is eventually going to that, or actually the Bitcoin stock to flow will eventually go to infinity because of the nature of the beast. But if you look here, you see the 1 billion to 10 billion, this jump here. This jump was very dramatic and happened very fast. So again, this is a beast that sometimes cannot be tamed. We have up at the very top, we potentially will be going to, say, if you imagine it's a clock, it's 12 o'clock, that'll be spring 2024. Each quadrant, there's 8 of them, is about 6 months. And that represents the whole halvening cycle. And you can see and monitor exactly how far we are along. The clock is now at about 4:30 p.m. For those of you who can see it, it's hard to see in that graphic. And that's where we are in the halvening cycle. So this will take us all the way to spring 2024. Each segment is 6 months. And who knows where we're going to go by then. But probably a lot higher. Now what's really interesting is the R squared of this is 0.99. And that is the indicator. It's really cool. How it actually works. It'll be great to monitor. There's no doubt, a lot of people are talking about this being a $100 trillion asset 10 years from now. We'll see. Not singing hopium, but definitely it's going to replace gold probably in the next 4 or 5 years. So that's where we're going to go. So we'll watch this carefully and look forward to updates. So let's talk about like people always ask me, what is my worst case prediction? Now, I thought about all the stuff happening over the last 2 days. Like, should I stop doing price predictions? Because if I miss, people get really, really upset. Even if I miss by 1.8%, people get really upset with me. So here we are. But I'm going to do it anyway. Do it for me. This is what I see. This is what I do. So based on my worst year-end price prediction, that is the worst case scenario price per Bitcoin. As of December 31st, 2021, it's going to be $68,750. Okay. Now I'm sharing that because I've been asked for it. What is your worst case scenario where you see this going? That is a big gain from where we are today. That's over 20%. So imagine making 20% on your money just in 4 weeks and 3 days. Not bad. So anyway, we'll see. And I came at this from a number of different methods, from fib levels to historical performance, etc., and that's kind of where I see it going. Could go a lot higher. Remember, this cycle is delayed. We are way behind between the China mining ban. Now we got the new C19 variant, all the alarm. But this is going to be good in the long term because this means that money printing will continue. Lockdowns will continue. Travel bans will continue. Economies will be stifled. Supply chains are going to get worse. But we're happy at home doing our research, and we have crypto to keep us company. So thank you, crypto. Now let's talk about this one. I missed this yesterday, but it was very noteworthy. The third richest man in Mexico, billionaire Ricardo Salinas Pliego, he commented that the US economy and Bitcoin, basically he sees them acting like a third world country. His exact words, I think he's worth about 14.2 billion, but he said, good old USA is looking more like any other irresponsible third world country. Wow. Look at the scale of fake money creation. Buy Bitcoin now. That's the message from Mr. Ricardo Salinas. Now, I think it's funny the way, a lot of people sometimes refer to Mexico is kind of like a different place, but for Mexico to be aggressively calling the US names like that, I thought it was funny. And like slamming his fist on the table, buy Bitcoin now. This is crazy. But let's dig a little bit deeper into why this is so important and why he said this. This was from Sam Wooters. This is the saddest image I think I've ever made. And it may not look sad at first glimpse, but this is a map of the world populated with government statistics. Okay. And what Sam Wooters said was, we need a Bitcoin standard yesterday. And when I look at this, all these numbers are government issued statistics. And you'll see here the inflation rates that cover countries that cover 1.1 billion people on Earth live with double-digit inflation. Many 35%, 50%, 2000%, etc. This is stealing money from everybody. This is destroying lives, billions of lives. Billions of people are being hit by the invisible thief. And this is the scary thing. This is why we talk inflation. This is why we keep looking at things like macro, looking at things like what's happening around the world. You can see all the canaries in the mine in all these countries. It's happening. And it's not going to go away. And the next 5 years will be rough. And that's guaranteed from everything that they see. So very sad for all those people in those countries. Very sad for the people in places like the US that think they have 5.1, 6.1% inflation when really it's 15% or more. And they know, and they're beginning to feel it now. That's why Bitcoin is the answer, and that's why Bitcoin will be bought up. So let's look at this one here. This is a chart here of ETH to Bitcoin, switching gears a little bit. And I've talked about the 0.08 before, and we're bumping up against it now as well. We've hit it 3 times in the last 6 months, and we're coming up against it. And now I believe, and so does Raoul Pal, is we need to get above that 0.08 ratio to really trigger an altcoin run, very importantly. And also, it's probably one of the most important charts in the digital asset world right now. Raoul Pal says this too. A break higher will lead to more risk-seeking into year-end. Bitcoin will also go higher too. But again, this has to do with things like Bitcoin dominance. Obviously, if we get above the 0.08, Bitcoin dominance will fall, but that doesn't matter. There's so much more value in all the other chains out there. And today, Ethereum has roughly 10 million users. I know people complain about gas fees and everything else, but that's because it is being utilized so much. The growth of users is insane. And remember, 10 million people is only 0.2% of all internet users are using Ethereum on a monthly basis. Where is that going to go? And basically that's why I'm so bullish on SCPs, because the demand for these things, the demand for these blockchains is going to explode over the next 5 years. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And that's why everybody needs to own some of these smart contract platforms. I know where I'm making my big bets, but we'll see. Now, usage will grow significantly in terms of number of users and in terms of number and frequency of transactions per user and the size of transactions. That's it. This is why this is going to explode. Love it or hate it, Ethereum's going to do very well this cycle too. So let's talk about the SCP weekend review. Who are the winners and who are the losers? Remember now, it has been a brutal week for crypto, oil, equities, you name it, because of what happened. But look at this. Despite that, we have our winner circle for the week. Elrond up a whopping 20%. Matic up 5%. We'll take that. And Phantom up 1.2%. Note, I own all 3 of these. These are my bets. They're not my biggest bets, but Matic is a pretty big bet. I just bought Phantom the other day on a dip, and I've had Elrond for a while, but doing really, really well. Now, regarding the losers, one of them in there I do own, in full, 2 actually. I have a small bag of Cardano, and I have quite a big bag of Polkadot. Polkadot has kind of sucked wind. The parachain seems to have flamed out a little bit, and Polkadot's down 11% for the week. Tezos down 15%, just like the week before, and Cardano's down 15.5%. And Cardano seems to be consistently down, but I do think it's got to be close to a bottom right now. So that is kind of the SCP in review of where we are today. Now let's talk about one second to last thing. This is Coinbase. Note, I got into Coinbase at $250 and heavy at $220. Shorted it when it went over $300. And it seems to be a good choice because not only did I short it over $300, but it looks like the insiders are selling all their bags above this level too. So an interesting one here. Again, I always felt long-term that Coinbase was going to be ravaged to death by decentralized exchanges as we go forward. And their fee structure is not sustainable at 4% for the typical Coinbase account. So that something has to give. And maybe the insiders see the same thing. So in final news as well, I have long said email and text messages are dead. There's simply too many of them. People can't keep up. But this could be a solution. This solves a whole bunch of problems out there in the marketplace. And I think we're going to see a lot more messaging go to the blockchain. So if you need secure direct messages or emails or texts, or you need to set up secure groups, or you want to monetize your DMs. Now that doesn't mean shilling, or it's like you gotta message me, you gotta pay. No, but if you had a small little fee, that'll eliminate all spam altogether. People aren't going to spam you. The spammers will not pay to spam ever. So, and you can set up groups, price per messages. This one is actually one I saw after the Brave internet browser. Solana is now hosting a mobile messaging app, Jabber by Bonafide. So that, again, messaging is going to the blockchain, and the blockchain needs to be able to scale to support this. Imagine doing a couple 100 million messages an hour or something like that. It really needs to be there. So we'll see. This will be an interesting space to watch, but this will also provide content creators with a trustless way to monetize their work and interactions, and for people to do secure messaging, even if it's only a couple of pennies. Again, spammers won't pay, and things like spam have destroyed so much stuff, even comments in YouTube. Be careful of the spammers, by the way, quick reminder. So with that, everybody, happy Saturday. DCA, quick announcement, is moving to Fridays due to scheduling issues. We are not having one tomorrow, but we will be having it next Friday. But I'll be doing my Q&A, answering your top questions. So let me know what they are. And working on that today. And we look forward to DCA on Friday. And we'll have a ton of really cool animal sponsorships as well. Big thank you to the mods out there. Thank you to all the stickers and the super chats and all that type of stuff. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great Saturday.